like 30 degrees outside and it's really hot. Whew, and I don't even have the windows open. Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? My name is Ella. Today I wanted to talk about Wicca, what it is, and how you can get started with Wicca. So I should probably start off with a few disclaimers. Everyone does things differently in Wicca, so these are just my opinions and my experiences. Second disclaimer is everyone has a different religion and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so please keep that in mind. I try to be very respectful of other religions, and I think it's only fair to also be shown respect. So the first things to get started with Wicca is, of course, what is Wicca? So a lot of different people will call it differently or explain it in a little different way. For me, Wicca is a nature-based religion, very similar, very close to animism. So for example, animals have a spirit and have a soul, and that everything has an essence and an energy. Wiccans also, usually at least, believe in a goddess and a god. Sometimes you even have a broader spectrum of gods. One of the most important things in Wicca is actually the Wiccan Rede, which is actually a very extensive poem. However, it's shortened down. So the Wiccan Rede, it says, "And you harm none, do as you will, and what you send forth comes back to thee." So what does this mean? Harm none, do as you will. Of course, very easy to understand. Whatever you send out into the universe will come back to you. So it's basically the law of karma. And then what you send forth comes back to thee. So ever mind the law of three. It means not only are you going to get it back once, but you're going to get it back 3 times. Wicca really focuses on not harming anyone. Harming none also means to not harm yourself. So that is also why eating right and exercising and loving yourself is really, really important in Wicca, and why it is so heavily emphasized. So within Wicca, we actually do not believe in a devil figure or demonic spirits either, usually. Of course, everyone has their own beliefs on this. For example, I don't believe in the devil, but I do believe in negative energy and in evil energy. I do think that exists. So Wicca is very closely related to witchcraft, though that does not actually mean that every Wiccan also practices witchcraft. It's just very common for this to be practiced together. So of course, what kind of witchcraft am I talking about? I'm not talking about Harry Potter type of witchcraft, though it probably seems like a lot of fun. We can't actually do that, unfortunately. It's more so, I like to refer to it as a mind over matter kind of thing, where everyone has energy and everyone works on a vibrational basis. The entire universe is made out of vibration, and if you tune into that vibration, then you can actually send out intentions and send out your own energies to change things. So do your research. That is step number 1 if you are new to Wicca and you just first read about it and you don't really know what's up yet. Watch a lot of different YouTube videos. There are so many YouTubers out there that I've also started watching when I was still very young. I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary of being an initiated Wiccan this year, so that's yay for me. And if there is one author that I can recommend, definitely, it's Scott Cunningham. Scott Cunningham is one of the most famous Wiccans, and he has amazing books that you can read. So one is this one, which is the second one actually. They go together, sort of. The next book, which is actually more of like a workbook, I guess you can say, is by Raymond Bookland. He has this amazing book. I really can recommend this book. So once you started researching Wicca and you're understanding a little bit more about it, now you might wonder, okay, now what? I'm reading books and I'm doing research and I'm looking into it. What's the first practical step? So I think it's meditation. You can meditate in many different ways. You can meditate, for example, with crystals. I always meditate with crystals. You can also meditate with malas. I actually make malas, so if you want to check those out, I make custom malas and also bracelets and a bunch of other really cute crystal jewelry. I'll leave everything below, by the way. If you've never meditated before, the probably easiest way that I would recommend is just go on YouTube and type in guided meditation. And you don't have to do one of those super long 2-hour meditations, especially not at the beginning. Just do 20 minutes, you know? Start every day with 20 minutes. And that will already give you such an advantage. If you're just starting out with Wicca, you might be wondering, so do I need an altar? So this depends heavily on what kind of path you chose for yourself and where you would like to focus on with your craft. But generally speaking, Wiccans do have altars. An altar is essentially a sacred space with a collection of tools which you use for different rituals. For example, my altar, which is actually right up here, I keep my Book of Shadows, I keep my athame, I keep my crystals on there, and my chalice, and so on and so forth. Now, when you're just starting out, all these things are probably either out of budget or just not available to you, or you're just not ready yet to get them, which is absolutely fine. If I was to give a recommendation for a beginner, I would say just get yourself a space, clean it all up nicely, and maybe have one candle. With an altar, you don't need to get all the expensive, nice, fancy things. You don't have to buy everything. You can reuse all the things that you already have in your house. The only thing that is important with an altar is that your altar stays sacred. So once you dedicated an item to your altar, make sure you're not using it for other stuff. Don't use a butter knife on your altar as your athame and then go back to using it as a butter knife the next day, you know? Why is that? It's just mixing energies, and it's just good to have your items know what they're meant to be for, if you know what I mean. Once you have your altar set up, the next step would definitely be to get yourself a Book of Shadows. What is a Book of Shadows? A Book of Shadows, some people also call it grimoire, or just a witch's diary, is basically writing down all the information that you're going to gather. So it does not have to be a super beautiful book or an expensive book by any means. As long as you have a notepad where you can keep all the information and all your experiences in, that is perfect for when you start out. You can even have an online Book of Shadows. That's probably the easiest, especially in our day and age, where you just copy and paste the information that you need or pictures that you need, and then you can even print it out if you really want to. Though of course handwritten always seems a little bit more special and a little bit more intimate, I guess you can say. What goes into your Book of Shadows? Now, the first 10 pages or 5 pages would probably be basic information. So for example, the 5 elements and their correspondences. Perhaps if you are looking into the tarot, you can also write down the major arcana tarot cards, or numerology then of course as well. Once you have your Book of Shadows sorted out and you have your altar sorted out and you already started meditating a little bit, you are basically set to go run into the wild and yes, just practice your path. And then you can start figuring out what you are really good with. For example, some love the tarot, some love crystals, some love spell work. So it all depends on what you want to do. Try to include Wicca in your everyday life. The next thing is spell work. Do you as a new Wiccan need to do spell work? No, you don't. Especially not just for the sake of it. Everyone will start eventually, but don't try and force it. Within Wicca, you always try to figure out your situation with, for example, talking and communicating and seeing what you can do before you reach to magic. So one thing with witchcraft in Wicca is you'd also usually stay away from cursing. I've seen Wiccans that do every once in a while curse people, but because of the entire harm none, we don't usually curse people. Just take into consideration what the consequences are and expect consequences. Don't expect to get away with some things. If you put something out into the universe, it will come back to you. So the next thing is solitary or coven, and do you need to be initiated? I was self-initiated. I did not have a coven to initiate me. So the question is, do you even need to be in a coven, or are you more than okay to be solitary? Now, I am a solitary witch. That's all I've ever been. I've tried coven work a few times. To be very honest, it's not my thing, just because I like to do spells my way, and I have my personal views on many different things. However, if you do have access to covens near you, definitely reach out to them and see if you can partake in a ritual, or if you can just have a conversation with them. Especially if you're new, it is great to learn from people that are more experienced. And covens can be a great support system and can be so informational and a great space to learn, to gain new experiences, and to just, yes, also have a fun time, really. Now, if you are solitary, things can look a little bit more difficult at the beginning because you don't necessarily have someone to ask. So the good thing about the 21st century is that it is so easy to reach out to other Wiccans and ask for information and ask for help. And just be like, hey, what's up? I have a question. That is the benefit of social media. You can learn so much from just Instagram alone, for example, you know. But once again, do take everything with a grain of salt. Do your research. If you are now ready to start your Wicca journey, but your family might not be necessarily the most accepting, then a lot of people are still in the witch's closet, in the broom closet. A lot of people still don't really know what Wicca is. The best way to go about it is honestly just talk to your parents and explain what Wicca is. If you don't want to do that though, there of course are possibilities to practice in your private time. For example, with an altar, you can have a movable altar. You can not have an altar and just have a sacred space. Maybe have a little box with a few bits and pieces that you can use for your meditation, for your practice. A great way to incorporate Wicca into your daily practice without stepping out of the broom closet is intention. So I think that is just it for this video. I hope it didn't turn to me just rambling, and I hope that you got some information out of this video and that it was slightly helpful. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask, you can either comment down below or you can also message me on Instagram. I will leave everything in the description box. Yes, I think that's all. So yeah, as we say, blessed be, and merry you meet, merry you part.